Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. Today's video was heavily inspired by Douglas Hofstadter's book, I Am a Strange Loop. If you enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe. Imagine the same day as life just endlessly repeating itself. Who are you? No, really. What makes you who you are? Which part of your brain is responsible for your music taste, your fashion sense, your taste in food? It's a thought experiment we've all entertained at some point. What if every day was exactly the same? For most of us, our daily routines contain repetitive elements. The morning coffee, the commute, the familiar faces. Yet the mundanity often fades into the background. We become so accustomed to the cycles and habits that we stop noticing them consciously. Days bleed into each other, the rituals and rhythms continuing on autopilot. While we intellectually know no 2 days are identical, our brains are wired to focus on novelty and filter out the repetitiveness. And so the loops lurk out of sight, shaping our lives more than we realize. Millions of people live their entire lives never caring or wanting to know what makes them tick. But the human psyche is infinitely complex, arguably the most intricate phenomenon in the universe, more complicated than stars, black holes, or anything else we know. How often do you stop and consider the multitude of forces that have shaped you into the person you are today? In his book, I Am a Strange Loop, Dr. Douglas Hofstadter puts forth the theory that human consciousness and our sense of I emerges from strange loops, which are paradoxical levels of self-reference. A loop is a non-linear feedback loop where information refers back to itself over and over. In the brain, strange loops underlie abilities like recognition, analogy making, the sense of meaning, and thinking about thinking. These cognitive loops allow a system to have thoughts about itself and give rise to the complexity of conscious identity. We all know the feeling, the nagging suspicion that life is just repeating itself day after day, that we're stuck in some endless loop. Alarm goes off, hit snooze, drag yourself out of bed, sip some coffee, head to work. Doesn't it sometimes feel like you're just mindlessly running through the same routine? This feeling that life is repetitive and predictable seems to contradict our deep sense of being a conscious self with free will. But what if the repetitiveness is actually intimately tied to the question of who we are? What if our selves are somehow dependent on loops? That's the radical idea we'll be exploring today. To understand this connection between loops and identity, we first need to understand a bit about strange loops. Strange loops are self-referential cycles that loop back upon themselves. They show up all over math, computer science, literature, psychology, and physics. But where things get really mind-bending is when strange loops appear in consciousness, in thinking about thinking. Our brains are filled with repetitive circuits that allow us to reflect on our own thoughts and sensations. We can think about thinking, create ideas about ideas, and make concepts like infinity or paradox. As cognitive scientist Douglas Hofstadter puts it, consciousness emerges from strange loops. Part 2. Strange loops as the basis of identity. If consciousness emerges from strange loops, what does this mean for our identity, our sense of self? Well, research shows the brain has no single center of self. We have many different processes and levels that make us who we are, but there seems to be a kind of core self that arises when lower-level signals get routed through labyrinthine feedback loops until a unified conscious experience emerges. Some theorize that what gives us our continuity of identity is the constant voice in our head that seems to monitor our thoughts as they occur. This monitoring allows us to link past, present, and future together. We continually tell and retell our own story. In fact, we seem to maintain our identities as individuals largely through memory. Memory links our past self with our present. And memory has that recursive looping quality, allowing old perceptions to shape how we perceive things now. So strange loops appear absolutely vital for consciousness and personal identity. The twist is, they also trap us repeating the same processes over and over. The same neural loops keep firing. The same thoughts keep circulating day after day. Part 3. Breaking the loop. Does it have to be this way? Are we doomed to keep compulsively repeating ourselves? Or can we break the loop and wake up to life in a fresh way? While some repetition seems necessary for a coherent self to exist at all, maybe we can become more conscious of the loops themselves. We can notice when we've become over-reliant on certain thought patterns or behavioral cycles that no longer serve us. We can experiment with disrupting everyday routines and expectations. Explore new hobbies, talk to new people, surprise yourself with the unexpected. While memory gives continuity, seek novelty and adventure when you feel trapped. Most importantly, bring beginner's mind to the present moment, a mind empty and free from preconceptions. Observe the world as it actually is right now, not as you conceptualize it to be through past habits and conditioning. Meet each moment as if for the first time. Conclusion. The idea that our selves emerge from strange loops implies we are destined to repeat cycles compulsively. But once we recognize this, we open the possibility of freedom. We must make the most of each day while we have the chance. The gift is living conscious and present right now. So next time you have that unshakable feeling that you're just going through the motions on autopilot, remember, you always have the power to disrupt the pattern and awake untold mysteries in the moment at hand. The loops that make up our lives are simply tools. We can choose how we dance with them. Thank you for watching.